Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We're back in Russell Square, the old local. Doing some reading. It's like a good autumn day.
Reading 2nd Canto, Chapter 2, Text 12. The chapter is The Lord in the Heart.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 12. The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing glance of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on this transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is said that the impersonalist undergoes a series of difficult programs on account of his impersonal meditation, but the devotee, due to the Lord's personal service, progresses very easily. Impersonal meditation is therefore a source of suffering for the impersonalist. Here, the devotee has an advantage over the impersonalist philosopher. The impersonalist is doubtful about the personal feature of the Lord, and therefore he always tries to meditate upon something which is not objective. Thus here is an authentic statement in the Bhagavatam regarding the positive concentration of the mind on the factual form of the Lord.
Wow, that was a completely different. This here. This is the impersonal. Is doubtful with the personal feature of the Lord, and therefore is always tries to meditate. Interesting. The process of meditation recommended herein is Bhakti Yoga, or the process of devotional service after one is liberated from the material conditions. Jnana Yoga is the process of liberation from the material conditions. After one is liberated from the conditions of material existence, i.e. when one is nivritta, as previously stated herein, or when one is freed from all material necessities, one becomes qualified to discharge the process of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga includes Jnana Yoga. In other words, the process of devotional service simultaneously serves the purpose of Jnana Yoga, because liberation from material conditions is automatically achieved by the gradual development of pure devotional service. These effects of Bhakti Yoga are called anartha nivritti. The things which are artificially acquired gradually disappear along with the progress of Bhakti Yoga. Meditation on the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, the first processional step, must show its effect by anartha nivritti. So, okay, keep going.
What you just read is not in my paragraphs at all.
Oh.
No.
Interesting.
Not to worry. Not to worry. Not at all.
Okay. The grossest type of anartha which binds the condition.
Okay, so that's here. So these two paragraphs, yeah, we didn't. The grossest type are here.
Interesting. Person recommend here is Bhakti Yoga, or the process.
No, so that's what you just read. So this one wasn't in it.
What is it?
This one.
This says okay.
Oh dear.
Here we are. Hare Krishna.
The grossest type of anartha which binds the conditioned soul in material existence is sex desire, and this sex desire gradually develops in the union of the male and female. When the male and female are united, the sex desire is further aggregated by the accumulation of buildings, children, friends, relatives, and wealth. When all these are acquired, the conditioned soul becomes overwhelmed by such entanglements, and the false sense of egoism, or the sense of myself and mine, becomes prominent, and the sex desire expands into various political, social, altruistic, philanthropic, and many other unwanted engagements, resembling the foam of the sea waves, which becomes very prominent at one time and at the next moment vanishes as quickly as a cloud in the sky. The conditioned soul is encircled by such products of sex desire, and therefore Bhakti Yoga leads to gradual evaporation of sex desire, which is summarized in 3 headings, namely profit, adoration, and distinction. All conditioned souls are mad after these different forms of sex desire, and one shall see for oneself how much he has been freed from such material hankerings based primarily on sex desire. As a person feels his hunger satisfied after eating each morsel of foodstuff, he must similarly be able to see the degree to which he has been freed from sex desire.
The sex desire is diminished.
In its various forms is diminished.
The sex desire is diminished along with its various forms by the process of Bhakti Yoga, because Bhakti Yoga automatically, by the grace of the Lord, effectively results in knowledge and renunciation. Even if the devotee is not materially very well educated, knowledge means knowing things as they are. And if by deliberation it is found that there are things which are at all unnecessary, naturally the person who has acquired knowledge leaves aside such unwanted things. When the conditioned soul finds by culture of knowledge that material necessities are unwanted things, he becomes detached from such unwanted things. This stage of knowledge is called vairagya, or detachment from unwanted things. We have previously discussed that the transcendentalist is required to be self-sufficient and should not beg from the rich, blind persons to fulfill the bare necessities of life. Shukadeva Goswami has suggested some alternatives for the bare necessities of life, namely the problem of eating, sleeping, and shelter, but he has not suggested any alternative for sex satisfaction. One who has the sex desire still within him should not at all try to accept the renounced order of life. For one who has not attained to this stage, there is no question of a renounced order of life. So, by the gradual process of devotional service under the guidance of a proper spiritual master and following the principles of the Bhagavatam, one must be able to at least control the gross sex desire before one accepts the renounced order of life factually.
So purification means getting free gradually from sex desire, and this is attained by meditation on the person of the Lord as described herein, beginning from the feet. One should not try to go upwards artificially without seeing for himself how much he has been released from sex desire. The smiling face of the Lord is in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are many upstarts who at once try to begin with the 10th canto, and especially with the 5 chapters which delineate the Rasa Leela of the Lord. This is certainly improper. By such improper study or hearing of the Bhagavatam, the material opportunists have played havoc by indulgence in sex life in the name of the Bhagavatam. This vilification of the Bhagavatam is rendered by the acts of the so-called devotees. One should be free from all kinds of sex desire before he tries to make a show of recital of the Bhagavatam. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur clearly defines the import of purification as cessation from sex indulgence. He says, Yata yata discha sudayati vishaya lampatyam tiyajati tata tata darayat iti chitta shuddhi tarat atmaye naiva dhyana taratyam ya uktam. And as one gets free from the intoxication of sex indulgence by purification of intelligence, one should step forward for the next meditation, or in other words, the progress of meditation on the different limbs of the transcendental body of the Lord should be enhanced in proportion to the progress of purification of the heart. The conclusion is that those who are still entrapped by sex indulgence should never progress to meditation above the feet of the Lord. Therefore, recital of Srimad Bhagavatam by them should be restricted to the 1st and 2nd cantos of the great literature. One must complete the purificatory process by assimilating the contents of the first 9 cantos. Then one should be admitted into the realm of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Wow, what a purport. All about overcoming sex desire, and then its relations to taking darshan. So when you look at or gaze upon the form of the Lord, that we should start at the feet and then move up to take darshan of the face, not jump straight to the face, which is very difficult because our attraction is predominantly for the face, not for the feet. But when we take darshan of the Lord, we should start with the feet and move up to the face. And same with reading and reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, that we should start at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, as we're doing, reading from the first and second canto. And the first canto and the second canto are considered to be the lotus feet of the Lord. And the 10th canto is considered to be the lotus face of the Lord. So in the same way, we shouldn't try to jump ahead and consider ourselves more renounced than we are, going to some higher topics when we're not really ready. And that can be estimated and judged by our attachment to sex desire. On the gross platform, it means the gross activity of sex desire and sex indulgence. And on the subtle platform, the three things that determine subtle sex desire is profit, adoration, and distinction.
Prestige.
Yeah. Prestige. Any thoughts?
No. There's something behind us.
Yeah, I think that doggy did a job around here. Sorry. Anyway, for Bhagavatam,
But
we will
so
read on.
it's saying that the sex desire is translated on the subtle platform through adoration, prestige, and
profit, adoration, and distinction.
but it's interest. So what we're being told is not to pursue these things, or to be aware of them on the path, because they can be trappings. But it's interesting because the path of Bhakti Yoga, as we learn from Nectar of Devotion, that it's all auspicious. So when you come into contact with the Absolute Truth, you're actually, not that you should do devotional service for this reason, but you acquire these things. You actually, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, who is famous, he said, a Vaishnav, someone who is chanting. So like we see sannyasis, but not just sannyasis, but people are adored and worshipped, and they get prestige, and whether you like it or not, people throw money at you or them. So irony is you get those things, but I guess Krishna reciprocates and gives you those things to the degree that you don't want them, or you're at least able to handle them.
I think the point being that we don't seek after them. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just say profit. Profit means, I guess, profit. Like, you want to get ahead. You want to get more than you put in a sense. You want to make something. So, you're not necessarily striving for great profit, but at the same time, if it comes of its own accord, then what to do? The point is that our mentality is not profit, adoration. I don't want the adoration of others. I'm not. In Bhagavad Gita, humility is described as not being anxious for the prestige of being honored by others. So not hankering after being honored by others. So that's real humility. So we don't want adoration. And distinction means I don't necessarily need to stand out over and above others. Like, pick me, it's me, look at me. That's distinction. And it's subtle sex desire. And it's, yes, that we should get rid of these things, but these things will be there, I guess, to a greater or lesser extent, but we should be conscious of them on our progressive journey. And we should be able to recognize them. What is it, the famous G.I. Joe saying? Now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
And on that note,
we're going to read more Bhagavatam. Okay. I think it's my turn to read, so don't start reading.
Oh.
You just read half the book. Okay, text 13. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to His smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified. I just have to say, this is really powerful. I mean, I've read this, I've heard this, understand it, but to be honest, I try when the curtains open during darshan to start at the lotus feet and move up. But usually it's often really quick. It's like, there's the feet, there's the top, we're done. But the point that's being made here by Shukadeva Goswami is that you should do it slowly and meditate on each part and take in each part of the Lord's physical features. And it says that one after another, the more the intelligence will become purified. So this is a powerful meditation and a powerful and tangible tip for how to purify the intelligence, which I think is really, really useful and good to share with all the devotees out there. Purport. The process of meditation recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam is not to fix one's attention on something impersonal or void. The meditation should concentrate on the person of the Supreme Godhead, either in his Virat Rupa, the gigantic universal form, or in the Satchidananda Vigraha, as described in the scriptures. There are authorized descriptions of Vishnu forms, and there are authorized representations of deities in the temples. Thus, one can practice meditation upon the deity, concentrating his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord and gradually rising higher and higher up to his smiling face.
According to the Bhagavat school, the Lord's rasa dancing is the smiling face of the Lord. Since it is recommended in this verse that one should gradually progress from the lotus feet up to the smiling face, we shall not jump at once to understand the Lord's pastimes in the rasa dance. It is better to practice concentrating our attention by offering flowers and tulasi leaves to the lotus feet of the Lord. In this way, we gradually become purified by the archana process. We dress the Lord, bathe him, etc., and all these transcendental activities help us purify our existence. When we reach the highest standard of purification, if we see the smiling face of the Lord or hear the rasa dance pastimes of the Lord, then we can relish his activities. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, the rasa dance pastimes are delineated in the 10th canto, chapters 29 to 33.
33 or 34?
33.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, so there you go. So the smiling face of the Lord is compared to the Ras Leela. And you don't need to jump to the Ras Leela. Better you focus on the lotus feet by offering
praise. Tulsi leaves.
We just read it, right?
I just said Tulsi leaves.
Tulsi and flowers.
Flowers.
To the lotus feet of the Lord. Which means whenever we dress Radha and Krishna, when we dress Krishna, we should offer flowers to his lotus feet.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I get in trouble for putting too much, but...
Well, flowers and Tulsi, not 6,000 birds and butterflies. Okay, carrying on. The more one concentrates on the transcendental form of the Lord, either on the lotus feet, the calves, the thighs, or the chest, the more one becomes purified. In this verse it is clearly stated, the more the intelligence becomes purified, which means the more one becomes detached from sense gratification. So that's what purified intelligence means, being detached from sense gratification. Our intelligence in the present conditioned state of life is impure due to being engaged in sense gratification. The result of meditation on the transcendental form of the Lord will be manifested by one's detachment from sense gratification. Therefore, the ultimate purpose of meditation is purification of one's intelligence. So the ultimate purpose of meditation is the purification of one's intelligence, and the purification of one's intelligence means detachment from sense gratification. Very powerful statements in this section of the Bhagavatam.
Those who are too engrossed in sense gratification cannot be allowed to participate in archana or to touch the transcendental form of the Radha, Krishna or Vishnu deities. For them it is better to meditate upon the gigantic Virat Rupa of the Lord, as recommended in the next verse. The impersonalists and the voidists are therefore recommended to meditate upon the universal form of the Lord, whereas the devotees are recommended to meditate on the deity worship in the temple. Because the impersonalists and the voidists are not sufficiently purified in their spiritual activities, archana is not meant for them.
Archana means worship of the deities, and deity worship is not recommended for those who are basically engrossed in sense gratification or who are impersonalists or voidists. Interesting. Okay. So text 214. Unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. Purport. The Supreme Lord is the seer of all worlds, both material and transcendental. In other words, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate beneficiary and enjoyer of all worlds, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 5:29. The spiritual world is the manifestation of his internal potency, and the material world is the manifestation of his external potency. The living entities are also his marginal potency, and by their own choice they can live in either at the transcendental or material worlds. The material world is not a fit place for living entities because they are spiritually one with the Lord, and in the material world the living entities become conditioned by the laws of the material nature. The Lord wants all living entities who are his parts and parcels to live with him in the transcendental world, and for enlightening conditioned souls in the material world. All the Vedas and the revealed scriptures are there expressly to recall the conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. Unfortunately, the conditioned living entities, although suffering continually the threefold miseries of conditioned life, are not very serious about going home back to Godhead. It is due to their misguided way of living, complicated by sins and virtues. Some of them who are virtuous by deeds begin to re-establish the lost relation with the Lord, but they are unable to understand the personal feature of the Lord. The real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in his service. That is the natural position of living entities. But those who are impersonalists and are unable to render any loving service to the Lord have been advised to meditate upon his impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa or universal form.
Some way or other, one must try to re-establish one's forgotten relation with the Lord if one at all desires to gain real happiness in life and to reclaim his natural unfettered condition. For the less intelligent beginners, meditation on the impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa or universal form of the Lord, will gradually qualify one to rise to personal contact. One is advised herewith to meditate upon the Virat Rupa specified in the previous chapter in order to understand how the different planets, seas, mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, human beings, demigods, and all that we can conceive are but different parts and limbs of the Lord's Virat Rupa. This sort of thinking is also a type of meditation on the absolute truth, and as soon as such meditation begins, one develops one's godly qualities, and the whole world appears to be a happy and peaceful residence for all the people of the world. Without such meditation on God, either personal or impersonal, all good qualities of the human being become covered with misconceptions regarding his constitutional position, and without such advanced knowledge, the whole world becomes a hell for the human being.
Text 15. Excuse me. O king, whenever the yogi desires to leave this planet of human beings, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed, and regulating the life air should control the senses by the mind. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 8.14, it is clearly stated that a person who is totally engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord and who constantly remembers Him at every step easily obtains the mercy of the Lord by entering into His personal contact. Such devotees do not need to seek an opportune moment to leave the present body, but those who are mixed devotees, alloyed with fruitive action or empirical philosophical speculation, require an opportune moment for quitting this body. For them, the opportune moments as are stated in the Bhagavad Gita 8:23 through 26. But these opportune moments are not as important as one's being a successful yogi, who is able to quit his body as he likes. Such a yogi must be competent to control his senses by the mind. The mind is easily conquered simply by engaging it at the lotus feet of the Lord. Gradually, by such service, all the senses become automatically engaged in the service of the Lord. That is the way of merging into the Supreme Absolute.
Looks like a movie set, no?
Yes, because that light came on, I think. It's getting dark. The light came on. It's surreal almost, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like a painting.
Yeah. It's not an artificial background. This is
No,
reality.
like on Zoom or so. This is real. Text 16. Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases from all other activities. Purport. The functions of the mind are thinking, feeling and willing. When the mind is materialistic or absorbed in material contact, it acts for material advancement of knowledge, destructively ending in discovery of nuclear weapons. But when the mind acts under the spiritual urge, it acts wonderfully for going back home, back to Godhead, for life in complete bliss and eternity. Therefore, the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. Perfect intelligence is to render service unto the Lord. One should be intelligent enough to understand that the living being is, in all circumstances, a servant of the circumstances. Every living being is serving the dictates of desire, anger, lust, illusion, insanity, and enviousness, all materially affected. But even while executing such dictations of different temperaments, he is perpetually unhappy. When one actually feels this and turns his intelligence to inquiring about it from the right sources, he gets information of the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Instead of serving materially for the above-mentioned different humours of the body, the living entity's intelligence then becomes freed from the unhappy illusion of materialistic temperament. And thus, by unalloyed intelligence, the mind is brought into the service of the Lord. The Lord and His service are identical, being on the absolute plane. Therefore, the unalloyed intelligence and the mind are merged into the Lord, and thus the living entity does not remain a seer himself, but becomes seen by the Lord transcendentally. When the living entity is directly seen by the Lord dictates to him to act according to his desire. And when the living entity follows him perfectly, the living entity ceases to discharge any other duty for his illusory satisfaction. In his pure unalloyed state, the living being attains the stage of full bliss, labdo pasanti, and ceases all material hankerings.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. What did you get from that?
I was getting wisdom. It's like when you come to Krishna consciousness, it comes a point where you start to feel satisfied from within, and you naturally start to want to do those things that are related to devotional service. Even like in your, I don't mean this in a way like I'm on some big high pedestal, but when you first start coming to the temple, it's like you find yourself like quite surprised. Oh, I'm not craving to do this, or go and sit down and watch this, or go there, do that. Like you feel satisfied and want to do without someone externally telling you. It's like saying the Lord starts to dictate how to act, how to please Him. It's interesting. And if you don't remain attentive, which is a discussion we were having with some ladies recently, you can go backwards as opposed to forwards. So then you start to feel those hankerings that you had before. So you've got to remain attentive, so you sharpen the sword, as it were, continually, because it gets blunt. If that makes sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Very powerful and very true, actually. That in the beginning, especially the natural, those unnatural desires, they dissipate, and we're naturally get an inspiration or inclination to do spiritual activities. But as you said very nicely, we have to remain attentive, otherwise we go backwards. Okay, so I think we'll end here. Thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, Srimad Bhagavatam. Here we've got the 2-1 with Radhalandanishwar on the front. Really, really beautiful. If anyone's interested, we can get you some. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.